Okay. Come out of recess and move on to rural public facility funds applications.
Yes, Kathy Funk Baxter, Finance Director. So today we have presentations from various applicants, and we have a little over 3 million, almost $3.2 million of request. And so we'll get started with City of Castle Rock.
Okay.
And their project is a water main extension for $550,000. And I think they have a presentation that we sent in. Does that look right?
Welcome, Tyler. Is the green light on?
Is your green light on? No.
The microphone, right?
Oh,
There you go.
Thank you.
Perfect.
So let's get started. Good afternoon, commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today about an important issue facing the city of Castle Rock. My name is Tyler Stone. I'm the Public Works Senior Operator for the city of Castle Rock. And with me today is the Honorable Mayor Paul Hellenberg. Next slide, please. Thank you. One of the challenges hindering growth and potential in Castle Rock is that one of the quadrants of our city remains without public water services. This isn't just an inconvenience, it severely limits both residential and business growth in the area. The southwest region of Castle Rock, specifically along the SR 411, contains some of the city's only mixed-use zoning area, which allows for both commercial and industrial development. It's worth noting that this is the only area in Castle Rock that doesn't have access to the city water. This slide on your screen shows the mixed use zone along SR 411 in the comprehensive planning map. This area has potential to expand with the proposed infrastructure improvements. Next slide, please. One of the challenges hindering growth and potential in Castle Rock, one of the example of how this lack of water is limiting growth includes Sound Precast, a company located just inside city limits on SR 411. Sound Precast LLC manufactures precast septic tanks, sewer and storm castings for the entire region. They have intent on expanding their business, but during a recent site plan review, they discovered they're unable to expand as planned due to fire flow requirements and production water limitations. Their current well cannot meet the expanded needs. With the proposed expansion, they anticipate increasing their full-time staff from 10 to 30 employees. Next slide, please. Installing 1,800 feet of a 12-inch water main along SR 411 would resolve these challenges. This would provide the necessary water capacity for fire flow and potable water for future developments and business expansions, including businesses like Sound Precast and potentially several others in this area. On this slide, the blue line indicates the route we would take to bring water from PH10, where it currently is, 1,800 feet to the south on SR 411. This project would include all the necessary fire hydrants and flow rates to satisfy both commercial and industrial users. Next slide, please.
So that takes it down to Cemetery Road, basically.
Yep. Extending the water main would serve 89 acres inside city limits, including 63 acres planned for development under the Castle Rock Park Master Plan. This area is planned to be transformed into an RV resort and campground, potentially offering over 100 campsites, which could produce 15 to 18 full-time jobs. Additionally, this water main extension could benefit Cowlitz County, offering development opportunities in the Delameter Valley. This project could have significant impact on business development, expansion, and residential growth on the west side of the Cowlitz River, but is currently being limited by the lack of infrastructure. Next, please. The SR 411 water main extension project isn't just about infrastructure. It's about creating opportunities and fueling growth for the community. Let's begin by discussing the impacts in terms of job creation. This project would provide significant employment opportunities across multiple sectors, including approximately 14 jobs during the construction phase, 65 to 85 full-time family wage jobs that would support local families, 91 to 114 part-time jobs offering supplemental income, and 47 seasonal jobs. These numbers are based off of information we received from Clark County Buildable Lands Report, along with local businesses' anticipated growth. Next slide. Gibbs and Olson, our consulting engineering firm, has provided an opinion of probable cost on this project of $959,000. However, based on the city's experience, capability of our public works crew, we estimate we can reduce these costs by approximately 43%. The city of Castle Rock has consistently demonstrated its ability to maximize value by using our own labor and resources. This project would be no different. Therefore, we're requesting the commissioners consider allocating $550,000 for the SR 411 water main project.
Tyler, did you say that you guys already have businesses that would be going there if this infrastructure was there?
We have one business specifically that's wanting to expand. We just had a recent site plan review with them, and they're being limited to what they can expand to with the current water conditions. We also have that RV development potentially in our park master plan.
Is that like between them and the fairgrounds?
It's kind of
Somewhere in that, or is it?
in the high banks, towards the Dreadswell site across
Oh,
from
okay,
Delaware
okay.
Road there.
Down in
East
there.
Texas.
Yeah, gotcha.
And pardon my ignorance on how this stuff works, but if you guys make that extension, is it gonna be able to branch out and feed other?
It very well could, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Given that this project is in WashDOT right away, there are several steps required to ensure completion. Key milestones would include starting the design immediately if project is funded. All necessary permitting for WashDOT will be completed in October of 2025, and construction of the main would begin in March of 2026. And then lastly, the water main would be fully operational by November of 2026. This includes testing, inspections, and ensuring that all requirements are met. This project is more than just a necessity. It's an investment in the future of Castle Rock. Strong infrastructure is essential to supporting new business and industrial development. The SR 411 water main extension is vital to ensuring Castle Rock remains a competitive, attractive location for businesses to grow and thrive. We're asking for the commissioner's support on this project, just as we've had in the previous years. We look forward to a continuing a great partnership in the future. Now, I really want to thank you for considering this project and open it up for any questions you might have.
I think last year's the one where we down Huntington and
Yep.
across the
Yep.
highway.
Yeah, last year we had
Yeah.
a sewer force main on Huntington
Yeah,
Avenue.
so it helps serve that new Tappanee development down there.
This one, that one crossed I-5 to the east side for future development on the east side of I-5.
And then were we part of the project when you put water out the other way on 411? Is that a different thing? That was different? Yeah, yeah. So in Castle Rock, you have, this will give you water going both directions on 411
Correct,
from
yeah.
PH 10, and you have it on Huntington, and of course, your other main runs all the way up Spirit Lake for quite a
Yeah.
while. Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect.
Is there any other-
Excuse me. Any existing businesses or facilities that this line goes past, will they be required to hook up to water, or if they're already on a well, they can stay on it?
If they're already on a well, they can stay on it. This is
Okay.
just offering capacity for people that want it.
I would imagine at some point in time, you probably run that down to Delmeter,
We very well could, yeah.
because that's kind of where the open fields are for any future.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did we handle this last year? Did we do them one by one, or I think we had funds and we were pretty comfortable with everything and just take them as a group?
Yeah. We-
Okay,
I'm suggesting that at the end, we just take it as a group
okay,
because the grand total is about exactly what we have available for the year.
okay.
So we're not in excess of what we currently have available.
Perfect. Thank you. You two good with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I am.
Any other questions for Tyler? Thank you, sir.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next presentation will be Cowlitz County Fire District number 5. And this is for fire training facilities. Their request is $50,000 and it's partial funding of that particular structure.
The request is. Oh, I see. Okay.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Vic Letzo, Cowlitz County Fire District 5. Appreciate the time. Thank you very much. We have submitted the application for $50,000 to help support our project to provide a training facility in our jurisdiction. As you can see in the presentation, the project is located at 415 Todd Road, which is our training facility in the way of the station since 1994. The project area, next slide, please, is in our designated fenced area, our training area. The black outline is the footprint of the, call it pad, 135 feet long, 50 feet deep on the short side and 95 on the long side. The intent is to have 6 containers assembled in the center of that pad to provide the facility for training evolutions. The next slide. Purpose of all that, again, ultimately live fire training, which is not going to be in this phase. That would be in phase 2. But then in the prop structure, the water supply, hazmat training, ropes, confined space, and smoke. We, on the water supply system, again, working with the county as they redesign, as the bids are out currently for the South Cloverdale realignment, work with the city of Kalama and the county in order to establish water supply into that facility to meet that. The overall, next slide, please. The overall impacts, again, we estimate that there are going to be 29 construction jobs, 12 full-time jobs, 3 seasonal, and of course, the volunteer corps that we have. We did not take into account our partners in discipline, such as Cowlitz County Fire District 1 that will be utilizing it. Not necessarily our partners to the north, Cowlitz 2 Fire and Rescue, because they do have their own facility, but there are times that we joint train and those folks may be down on our facility as well. There is a gap in the South County when it comes to a facility. We are moving forward with this. We have allocated $35,000 this year. The call for bids are due on Friday, the 18th. So then we'll take a look at what contractor is successful. If we are unable to obtain the 50,000, which would be added to the 35,000 we have, again, we'll just phase it out even longer. The overall impact is the proficiency and knowledge base of responders to the 7,600 plus residents of our jurisdiction. Of course, we have a significant industrial base that draws in about 1,200 daily residents or workforce, excuse me. Currently, there's roughly 50 commercial industrial businesses in our port area, and we know that that is a global economy. And then, of course, our big one that has come down on us over the last few years is the 29,000 cruise ship folks that is a transient population, but adds actually a whole different dynamic for us in the way of a floating hotel, with an additional population that comes and goes. So again, our overall goal is to reduce property loss, increase those life safety, and then ensure that we have a refined positive continuity of operations for our residents and the industrial commercial business base that we have in our jurisdiction. Any questions?
29,000 coming on the cruise ships, huh?
So I did have conversation
Pretty cool.
with Executive Director Mark Wilson yesterday
Yeah.
to validate numbers. For 2025, we have 145 cruise vessels scheduled to dock at the Port of Kalama. Their max capacity per cruise ship is 378. You
Wow.
do that math and that's 59,000 people.
Yeah.
So we average 200 passengers per vessel. So that takes that to 29,000.
Very cool.
124 in the next year.
145 vessels this year,
145.
just this year.
That's awesome.
That's like every other day a ship.
We have a ship, we have a ship almost every day, and there's some days we have double dock.
Whoa, okay.
Very cool.
So. Anything else?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item is City of Kalama, and this is for water plant upgrades. They are requesting 500,000, and the total project is a little over $4 million.
Hello, Commissioners. I'm Adam Smee. I'm the City Administrator for Kalama. I have with me Public Works Director Kelly Rasmussen in the audience. And if there are specific questions about splits and population service and things like that, I brought backup because he's the one that knows all of that. So you have seen this application before, or the BOCC has seen this application before. The county was very gracious with us and provided us $1 million last year. This is an application to expand our drinking water treatment plant in Kalama by 50% generation capacity. It is an automated plant, so it's extremely efficient in terms of employee hours. The plant is fully paid for. I believe it was built in 21 with a 20-year loan on it. It was built to be expanded to add a third filter. Each filter produces 900 gallons a minute. Our water demand is seasonal. So we in the wintertime, we are able to run one filter and we trade off between the two filters that we have. In the summertime, our demand has risen to the point where in order to meet demand, we need to run both filters in parallel at 1,800 gallons a minute. The expansion of this plant would take us to 2,700 gallons a minute of production capacity. And Kalama is a little bit unique in that our water service area is about 44 square miles, and we have multiple pressure zones. We serve a large population outside of the city limits, including the industrial water base. In fact, Director Rasmussen can give you the number, but a good portion of the water we produce goes to industrial process water to support jobs at Steelscape, jobs at RSG, the OI glass facility, all of that Northport potential. So the 97-acre Northport site is all served by Kalama City Water, as well as Spencer Creek Business Park. So the port is actively developing and constructing currently out along Kalama River Road. We're encouraged by that and hope to see over our 40-year master plan hundreds of jobs land out there. Currently, I believe the building is 38 or 42,000 square feet and set up for 13 different businesses. We are meeting current demand, but we're looking toward the future, both in terms of this project with the generation capacity, as well as the next project in our capital facilities plan, which is to add a million more gallons of water storage capacity in Kalama to our reservoir, our network of reservoirs. So I'm happy to answer any questions. We're here asking for another $500,000 because we have gone from a planning number to we're now at 50% design. I checked with our invoicing and yeah, we're about halfway through paying our engineering firm to design the plant. And some of the things that we've discovered is that with a facility that's 20 years old, all of the automated technology is now a generation behind. And so in terms of installing new equipment, we want our programmable logic control, our human machine interface, all of the automated valves and VFD drives to be exactly the same and consistent across the operation of the plant, both for the operators as well as for depreciation and just replacing the things that are wearing out. So as we've begun to look at that and look at not only installing the new filter, but upgrading all of the existing infrastructure in the plant, we've experienced some scope creep. And so we're back asking for more money. And while that may be attractive, unattractive, that is the nature of the business, unfortunately. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have. I'm happy to have Director Rasmussen come up and answer the questions that I can't answer.
I think it's great you guys are being proactive and looking to the future.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the projected final cost of this project at this point?
Just over $4 million, which is about $1 million more than the last time I was here. So we do intend to go to the state capital budget request during the short session for next year to request funding from them. We're also in the process of upgrading our water system plan to make sure that we're eligible for Department of Health, Public Works, Department of Health, state revolving funds, or Public Works trust funds, depending on if they're gonna get swept or not swept. So for about 1.3 million potentially of debt service that the city's gonna carry, as well as the 1.2 that we're gonna contribute out of reserves. So.
How far can you expand your plant? I mean, I think we commented last year, you built it with expansion in mind, which is a lot of forethought.
Yes, sir.
How far can you go with that? Because as much as you're growing in industrial and all that type of stuff.
Well, and we're sensitive to that because we are constrained. We have a small footprint.
Yeah.
We run it's not only is it automated, it's a diatomaceous earth plant for filtration media, and it's the largest one in the state. We're pretty limited because we're in the shoreline of the Kalama River with the plant, and so the site is constrained. This expansion would put us at capacity for the site.
Okay.
And it is a sole source. So there is no secondary source for drinking water at this time for Kalama or the surrounding area, including fire flow. So we're sensitive about this, which is part of why we're looking ahead and trying to plan to make sure that we've got adequate resources.
Perfect.
Good.
Okay,
Thank
thank you very much.
Our next item up is Port of Longview, and Port of Longview project is the North Rail Capacity Addition. Their request is for 500,000 for 2025 and 500,000 for 2026 for a total project of $4.5 million.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about our project. I'm Jennifer Brown, the Chief Admin and Finance Officer at the Port of Longview. I also have the Director of Facilities and Engineering, Bill Burton, here. So if there's technical questions, he gets them. I have some slides here, just kind of give a background on the why of the project first. So this is kind of an aerial overview of where the port is located with some highlighted areas. The port has 8 berths that import and export a variety of bulk and break bulk cargoes. So if we start with our berths 1 and 2, which is called the Bridgeview Terminal, that's an export facility that exports a dry bulk cargo. It's a white cargo, dry bulk, and it's called soda ash. That's used in glass making. Then we have our berth 4 facility, which is vacant, and I will talk about that a little bit later. Then we have our berth 5 facility, which is a British Petroleum export facility, and there's a dry bulk export, calcined coke, that's used in the aluminum industry. Then we have our berths 6, 7, and 8, and we import a variety of dry bulk cargoes, as well as break bulk or project cargo. So an example of that would be like the wind blades that you might have seen as you're driving over the bridge in our yard, or you might have seen them on trucks on the freeway. Then we have our berth 9 facility, which is our export grain terminal. And that exports corn, wheat, and soybeans to Asia. So the Bridgeview Terminal, berth 5 and berth 9 are rail served, meaning that their commodity or cargo comes in via rail cars, and it comes in via the industrial rail corridor, which is in blue on the map there. So that comes off the main line, BNSF and UP. We currently have two rail lines there. It's about 1.5 miles. So EGTs comes right off that and into their facility, into their loop there. They own that rail. But the berth Bridgeview and berth 5 rail continues on into that yellow area, the north rail area of the port. So as you can see on that graph, the rail car volumes have increased over the past few years, not including EGT rail, but just for the other. So the port is looking at doing several rail projects, one of which is this project to increase operational efficiency. Next slide. In addition, we're looking at these rail projects, including this one, to prepare for the berth 4 development. So I said the berth 4 is vacant. It used to be a export grain terminal. It closed in 1989 and has sat vacant since then. So the port's been working on redeveloping that. We took out an old dock and put in a lay berth dock that you'll see on the right there. And in 2024, we completed the demolition of the facility and all the silos there. So you see on the left is the before and on the right is after. So we're preparing to market that as a dry bulk export facility, which will be most likely rail-based. So our rail will continue to increase. So the rail expansion project that we're talking about here will be additional 4,800 feet of new rail track. You can see the picture on the right there is looking to the west from that yellow area from on the map. Some relocation of existing track that goes to the Bridgeview Terminal, and another maintenance access road and some utility and stormwater realignment with that project. So the total cost is $4.5 million. Construction should start this fall and be completed by the end of 2026. So again, like she said, we're asking for $1,500,000 2025 and $500,000 in 2026. So that's kind of a snapshot view. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So would, if we approve this, are we approving the full $1 million or just the 500,000 for this year?
if it's your choice, but if we do a contract, we typically would put in the contract that 500,000 would be dispersed in 2025 and 500,000 would be dispersed in 2026.
Okay,
So is that amount reflected in this year's budget and the next year that will be reflected in that, the other 500,000?
Yeah, the other 500,000 I would reflect in next year's budget based upon year dispersed.
So when you said that the balance that we have is equal to what we have here, is that with just 500,000? Or is that the full million?
That's the full, we could fund the full million with this year's funding. But we would probably put it in the budget, 500,000 this year, 500,000 next year.
Yeah, actually, I kind of like it that way because we're not committing what we would receive next year, really.
Right.
We
We're
have it all.
committing
We're
committing
committing what
current,
we have this year. We're just doing it over 2 years.
right.
Yeah.
okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So our next item is City of Longview. And this is for a Minute Valley Pro Shop roof and siding replacement. Their request is $450,000. And the total project is $450,000.
You're getting our cost estimate and some photos. So if you have take a quick moment and kind of look through those photos, and then we can go through what that looks like. I didn't bring a presentation, so you can kind of see the current condition of the facility that we're going to be working with.
Is there no deferred maintenance budget for this building?
So I'm going to talk about the history of the golf course. So the city opened the golf course in 1976. And this is a project that we were very passionate about at the time, but it had been run by a contractor. So the city had done the maintenance on the course, so the greens, but not anything on the building. We had a contractor in there. And so we had a contractor and their goal was to run the operations and do upgrades to the facility. And so no one loves your facility like you do. So it was kind of like having a bad renter in our facility. And so the city took it over in 2019 and got an idea of what we were actually dealing with at the time. And so there was a lot of deferred maintenance. There was a lot of mom and pop electrical things that were happening, permits that weren't pulled, some very interesting things. And so when we took it over in 2019, we transitioned the management from contract-based to city-run operations. And we got in there and it was about a $700,000 revenue in its enterprise fund, and the general fund was dumping in money to try to keep it alive. When we took it over, we went from $700,000 to $1.8 million in revenue this last year. And we were able to do internal stuff, so customer-facing things such as our kitchen, our pro shop. We did some cart path work, upgrades to our driving range, poles, nets, so things that our customers could see, things that your customers, Cowlitz County customers would see. But as you drive in, the beauty of the outside of the facility, you can see we are missing parts of our roof, siding. We have a Starling family. We have them named. They live in the side of the building. People say hello to them. And so that's a part that we haven't been able to do. And so that entire property is something we are looking at upgrading. We worked with the United States Tennis Association, and we just updated that tennis facility. And so we're trying to make sure that this is a amenity for our entire community. So when we're talking about quality of place, bringing people to our community, a tennis facility, a golf facility is something that's going to be very important, but it's very difficult in its enterprise fund and the community model that we run it in. So we do fun runs, we do movies. We try to keep the price point so that our tee sheet is full, understanding that there are other outside pressures, other golf courses throughout the area. It's not a PGA professional course. It is a community course. It's a draw for both our local residents and those from around our area. And so this would be an opportunity with everything else that we're doing. We have a $2 million irrigation project coming this fall. And so we've done a lot of the different things, but the outside shell of that facility, if we continue on, is going to see some pretty bad deterioration more than it already is as it creeps inside from the outside.
So Jen, it's safe to say that based on your guys' level of commitment and investment into this, you're not looking at selling that.
We are not looking at selling that. No, every time we've even brought that up as an option, understanding the real estate value that that has and a few of the other, we've got a resounding no from council, from our community. This is something necessary for our community. When we talk about trying to attract businesses, homes, higher level income positions, having a community golf course such as this is very important.
So the course pulled in 1.8 million last
Correct.
year?
Mhm.
And that's about twice what it had been doing?
Yep, and we had
Yeah.
to pay more than twice. It was 700,000 to
Yeah.
1.8.
Yeah,
So when we opened the course in 2019, it was bare bones, no shelves. They took the light bulbs, no toilet paper, like it was and so we had to build all of that back up. So we started absolutely from scratch, built out the restaurant and all of that. So we started with the inside, understanding that the customers were our greatest need. And now we're trying to make sure that we're taking care of the facility as well.
so at 1.8, it covers all operations and salaries and once you're fixed,
So it gets
you're
to.
able to set aside maintenance dollars?
It gets to reinvest in itself. It is an enterprise fund, but that's also, that money covers our greens mowers, our backhoes. I mean, that funding is all of it. And so it's either going to be a capital request from the city or it'll be a request from
Gotcha.
the commissioners. But it is a solvent facility and that was our main goal.
Yeah, yeah.
It's great if you can get it solvent. That's awesome.
The tennis people did a wonderful job with the deal over there, didn't they?
They didn't, like, we get to say we can have nice things. That tennis facility is already bringing people from Vancouver. It was a blight, kind of like the outside of the golf course is now. And I think that having both those facilities right there, it brings people even further into Longview. So not just on the I-5 corridor, it's going to be a major benefit. And so if we can figure out a hotel at some point, which I know we are, that would be the next step.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys.
Okay, now we have Cowlitz County Fire District Number 2. And this is related to their Rose Valley Fire Station building facility. And they, their application originally requested a $100,000 loan as well as $200,000 grant. And I'm recommending that because we have the funds available, that we would do a $300,000 grant.
Just a grant.
Mhm.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. Scott Goldstein, Fire Chief with Cowlitz 2 Fire Rescue. Thank you for the opportunity. As was just outlined, and it's the packet you had in front of you identifies Rose Valley Fire Station, our fire station number 4. Was built in the 1960s. It was pivotal in the services to the Rose Valley area, but does not have, currently has very limited service, functional, administrative, and daytime, nighttime support areas. There's a one-room office, a stall bathroom, 1 sink, 1 shower, 1 toilet. No sleeping opportunities, no kitchen facilities in that station. The district looked at and had an evaluation about doing a renovation inside the facility to take some rear garage space that is there and converting that into a living area. That project was quite expensive. The district re-engineered that program, and in the 2020 era, implemented a new septic system on site to support a building expansion and drilled a new well to support these functions at the station. Prior to that, the station had been predominantly using water from from Rose Valley School to support the station. Our objective with this project that is in place, and it's a project that the district has started and would like assistance from the Rural Public Facilities funding, is to place a roughly 1,200 square foot manufactured home on site, which will give us a 3-bedroom facility, kitchen, two bath building that will be directly adjacent to the left of the fire station when you look at it in what is the current parking lot or part of the parking area. That will provide us the ability to have 24/7 operations there. The Rose Valley Station was one that we were deficient in adequate volunteer staffing within our community. And I would be quite remiss to not identify the fact that we did a membership drive through the fall of last year and garnered 8 new volunteers that live within Rose Valley. Their last day of training their last training ends this month. They've been in Basic Fire Academy since February. So those folks heard my call, came to the district. We had several information sessions. We partnered with the Friends Church, partnered with the school, and we have a cadre of members in addition to the 2 that we had at the time that lived within the valley. So now we have members within the community that will begin to help staff and provide the opportunity to have more personnel in this facility. The facility couldn't support them, didn't have the facilities to allow them to be there overnight. So this project, 1,200 square foot manufactured home, we started with about a $200,000 budget line in District 2's 2025 operational budget. Scope has grown, as you've heard with the folks before us. The process has already started. We have the 2020 planning clearance was approved with the septic system expansion, and we are at the end of April getting the site work and utility quotes back from vendors. We know it's about an 8-week process for the manufactured home once we turn that order on. We hope to have this facility functional by the late summer, early fall of this year. And as was identified, we submitted this as a combination grant and loan, like we did in 2018, 2019, when the Rural Public Facilities supported the Lexington Fire Station expansion. That was the intent, to show that we were looking to partner with the funding, and the additional help as identified in your first meeting 2 weeks ago and now today would be greatly appreciated. Jobs, impact. Roughly 10 full-time construction jobs will occur, but naturally that's going to be a short time component because it's site prep, manufactured home installation, integration with the fire station, and then operationally move on. But what it will provide us is a building to support professional members, career or volunteer, staffing Rose Valley Fire Station and expanding the service to that part of the community, 1,800 residences in the valley. Open to questions.
I'm glad to hear that you got the volunteer issue resolved. I was at that public meeting when you talked about that, and that's good to hear.
Yep.
If we did the loan portion of this as requested versus the grant, what would the loan look like?
Typically, the loans are structured with a loan repayment plan and interest, and the interest is usually at a nominal amount. I think the last one was like something like 1%. But the administrative burden of collecting that and tracking that is pretty not real significant, but it's significant.
More than
So,
the 1%.
yeah, more than the
Probably more
1%
than
interest.
1%, right? Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Over
that's
what
why I'm
time-
recommending it be a grant.
Yeah. Over what period of time would you normally put something like that out?
Normally, the ones that we have had in the past that he just mentioned, they're typically over 5 years, a 5-year period, something
Okay.
like that.
So this is not 300,000 plus the loan, it's 300,000 in lieu of. the
It's a
loan.
total of 300,000 that we would disperse as a grant.
Okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Okay, our next project is Cowlitz Economic Development Council. We are allowed, it's not an infrastructure project, but we are allowed to pay payroll-related expenses for an economic development office under this, under the RCW that governs rural public facilities. And so the request is for an annual funding of $115,000 for personnel expenses. And they would like to receive a 3-year contract to receive the funding, $115,000 each year for 3 years. I think
Thank
I've
you for
got
that
correct.
introduction. Yeah, thanks for that introduction. I don't have a formal project as we are kind of a different carve out. Ted Sprague, President of Cowlitz Economic Development Council. Yeah, they carved EDC personnel into this program probably 15 years ago. We didn't request any funding until probably a few years after that. We always kind of had the philosophy that we would rather see the money go to our partners in infrastructure projects, but as you know, funding gets tight in different areas. And when we were looking at the budget, the state budget last fall, we knew that everybody was going to take a cut. And we do have a significant contract with the Department of Commerce at the state level. And we are right now currently looking at a 55% cut to that contract, which would eliminate a position at the EDC if that were to happen. And so what I did was I did a survey of my colleagues around the state, rural EDCs that are eligible for this funding, and 9 of those replied. I recently got one back from Island County, and what I learned was that we are at 50% funding compared to our lowest rural partner. So I did it on a per capita basis because that's how our contracts with Commerce work. And per capita, we're at 45 cents. The next lowest county is Yakima at 97 cents. And the median is $1.67. So if I came to you at a request of the median, my request would be $185,000 per year. But what I felt like just politically, that's a huge jump. We would appreciate it and we would make good use of that money. But what I felt was we should kind of incrementally get back into getting closer to our partners. And so I didn't pull the number out of the sky. 115,000 is what Mason and Lewis counties receive from this fund, which puts them at $1.40 and $1.75 respectively. What $115,000 request from us puts us at $1.04. So we're still under, but at least it's getting us back into, I think, into the ball game when you look at this. Then we would be able to retain that employee and not have to let that person go. I shared these numbers also with my executive committee and my board of directors, which is made up of, as you know, public and private sector leaders throughout the county. And one of the things that my board suggested this morning is if we could put into the contract a 3% COLA. So we would go to 115 this year, 2026 add 3%, 2027 add 3%, which would continue to keep us from falling behind our other colleagues in rural areas across the state. So I would make that request today to see if that would be possible. And then this would just, like I said, be able to allow us to maintain our employment at a current pace and then keep up pace in future years. Any questions for me?
Let me think about that a minute.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
I can appreciate your remarks with regards to the COLA. and incrementally getting us to where we need to be. We definitely understand that part of it with some of the things that we're dealing with. So I appreciate that. How did we get to the point to where we're so far below the lowest?
Again, I put that on me. I never requested more. And, you know, frankly, our budgets are doing fine. We've run a very tight, lean budget. But when I heard from the legislature in the fall that we were going to be taking a cut, that's when I really started to talk to my colleagues to say, I figured $50,000 a year was probably what most folks were getting. And I was a little taken aback when I found out that Yakima was getting $250,000 annually, Kittitas, 180,000, Grant, 150,000, even Little Pend Oreille, 130,000 annually. And I just thought, boy, for a county our size, I've been selling my own EDC short. And so the fault is mine for not asking for an increase earlier. But just the crisis of the Department of Commerce contract is what really prompted me to finally really take a good hard look at where we were compared to our colleagues.
Well, the fact that you've been running so lean for so long is kudos to you for being able to do that. Is this increase, obviously you feel confident that it's going to be able to withstand whatever cuts you get and you're going to be able to continue to perform your duties?
Absolutely, yeah. And that's why, again, you know, some people on my board encouraged me to ask for the 185 because that would get me to the median per capita number. But I don't have a specific plan to put in front of you. If there was an additional, you know, 70,000 in our ask, and I don't feel good about that. But I know that if the Department of Commerce cuts come, I'm going to have to lose an employee. This will give us more breathing room into the future and by allowing us a 3-year contract will allow me to do more future planning. If, let's say, we retain our Department of Commerce funding at the current level, you know, maybe there's some other things that we could be doing, maybe bring out another special projects type of person. Because this is for personnel for us.
Okay, so it's not going towards any projects or anything. It's good for strictly for your personnel.
Correct. Yeah.
I think the multi-year is important because some of those projects you work take some time to put together. And, you know, before, I think the last time you were in, we extended you to 2 years and I have no problem with the 3 because I'd hate to see you work a project and all of a sudden you have to go away type thing.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
And I don't have any issue the 3%.
I
per
think it's
year.
wise so that we can get caught up and we're not
That'd be
asking,
great.
we're not gonna have such a big ask.
Doesn't look like it
again.
amounts to much.
I did a little quick calculation. The 115,000 would go up to 118,000 basically. So
Yeah, okay.
And then to what, 122, the
Yeah.
3rd year? Okay,
Sorry for springing that on you today. But I thought it was a good idea when one of my board members
No,
suggested.
I
it.
agree.
Yeah.
Being able to do things incrementally like that makes it to where it's easier to budget for and you don't get a surprise in 3 to 5 years and you don't have such a big ask.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
okay.
Okay.
okay,
All
thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our last item is a request for funds to, I believe, do a study of beneficial use of dredge materials. And this is for our Cowlitz Wahkiakum Council of Governments. And the ask is 121,000.
Thank you, Commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. A couple of you have heard a little bit about this, I think, beforehand. I've got with me Sam Shogren, who is our staff person that's working on the Spirit Lake Collaborative that this would fall under. This project came out of the work of the Spirit Lake Collaborative that's dealing with flood issues and sediment issues in the water. It fits in a variety of things that we'll do. It's providing some possible economic development opportunity to keep Ted busy as if he doesn't have enough to do right now. But it also protects critical infrastructure and facilities in the county, mainly Kelso, Longview water systems, Castle Rock's water system, Castle Rock's wastewater system that's being inundated, I believe, with sediment from Mount St. Helens. And so if we can find some beneficial uses of this sediment that's coming down the mountain, that we've got mountains of it stored in a couple locations, and we can start processing it out of it, creating some economic value out of it, I think that's a win-win for the region. So next slide, please. Just a little overview of what the collaborative is all about. It was formed following work of the National Academies of Sciences, Arts, and Mathematics. They created a framework study that one of the recommendations was to create this collaborative to deal with the longstanding issues of the eruption of Mount St. Helens, sediment, catastrophic and periodic flood, and the regional economy being some of the elements that were included in that report. Next slide. And this is just a little graphic that Sam's put together that shows since the time of the eruption of Mount St. Helens, what's happened to the adjusted income for Cowlitz County residents and workers. And whether it's coincidence or something else, but since the eruption of Mount St. Helens, we have not kept up with state and national increases in wages and earnings as a region. And whether this can help fix that or move us in a stronger direction, I don't know, but it's maybe a piece of the puzzle. Next slide, please. Project overview, basically what we're talking about doing is doing some analysis of the chemical and physical characteristics of the dredge and sediment materials that are stockpiled across the county. We've already made some connections with a University of Oregon researcher that has the capacity and can probably do some analysis on this summer. We've worked with a couple of folks out of Woodland that are doing concrete and other types of work with dredge materials that they're getting out of the Columbia River currently, and they're excited about potentially having a large ability to capture additional sediment a little farther north of where they are today. You can see the rest of that, but basically trying to figure out what this material can be used for most efficiently and effectively, what the transportation cost would be, and what it would take to get it to market and get it, keep it from going back into the river. I think you guys are well aware, LT1, other sites, the river is starting to recapture mounds and mounds and mounds of sediment that the Corps of Engineers pulled out of the river in the early 80s. It's been sitting there for 40 years, and we need to find something to do with it to keep it from going back into the river. Next slide. This shows just a few of the sites that we're talking about that have the huge amount of sediment available. We'll research, see where these are, where other sites are, and analyze, as I said earlier, the capacity and the makeup of those materials to see what we might be able to do with it, whether it was some level of glass manufacturing, concrete, or some other uses that we haven't thought of. There was some initial study done on this in the 80s. So we'll look back at what the experts said then compared to what the experts say now, and hopefully come up with a game plan that we can implement as a region to address some of the sediment concerns we've got. So that is the end of my comments. I'd be happy to answer questions, or Sam can answer questions if I can't, and appreciate again the opportunity to be here.
I'd be happy to give it away if you get it out of the river.
And that may be part of the scenario. And Sam and I were talking about it earlier this morning. And Commissioner Farrell, we've talked about it. And maybe part of this is we find a way to set up a system where residents can show up at LT1 with their pickup truck, load it up and take it home to use on their lawn to level it out or whatever it might be. So
Landfill,
Yeah.
gardens, donate to schools for sandboxes. Get it the hell out of the river.
that's the idea, is to control the sediment and make sure it doesn't get back in the river system. I didn't mention Port of Longview has, and I think they're still here. Yeah, and they can justify or verify, over the last 5-10 years, they have had to start to dredge there right at the mouth of the river more frequently and more quantities than they were 10-15 years ago. So this problem is not going away, it's getting worse, and we need to find a way to address to some degree. And this may be part of the fix. It's not going to fix the whole thing.
So to this point, Bill, we have no idea if there's any market value to that at all.
There is market value for aggregate, for fill and such. And what we're trying to do is figure out if there's a higher and better use than just the fill material. The transportation cost for the fill material is questionable and it's tough. So we need a value added product if we can find one to deal with this material.
Does anybody send a letter to Elon Musk to see if he can come up with a brilliant idea to use that stuff for?
I'd be happy to edit and review anything you come up with to ask.
Put my name on it.
Look, it's been 40+ years. So you would think somebody would figure out what to do with it.
You would,
I
wouldn't you?
don't think anyone's looked at it for many years.
We sell some of it to Stordal.
Yeah.
And we have no mechanism for getting it out of the rivers. You know that, right?
Right.
So if you're talking about you're gonna help the silt situation and Castle Rock stuff, it's not gonna help because we got no mechanism, we have no authority to get it out of the river.
Well,
Right.
if we can get it off of
So where's
LT,
this money go to? It goes to the collaborative?
this money would go to the COG to hire consultants to do some research and work and try to build a framework.
So where's the
For-
collaborative fit into this?
Well, the collaborative is run by the Council of Government, so it is, we're the administrative agency for the collaborative. And this is a project of the collaborative through the COG.
We had a person working on LT1 for over a decade and never got anything done. So how are we gonna get something done here? This one gives me heartburn, I'll be honest with you.
Okay?
Okay.
Bill, if I might.
Yep.
One of the conversations I've been having, and Bill slightly misstated, is the head of the engineering school at Oregon State University has a lab that would be able to analyze this material for ash composition and also what the sands are like. So we can tease out, after 45 years of this stuff sitting on the bank, the chemical composition of these depositions have changed over time. So we need to be able to do a new assessment to figure out new markets for this stuff and finally develop a way to get rid of the stuff that's sitting there on the shores, because we still have 3 billion cubic yards of material sitting on Mount St. Helens that's going to be working its way for the next 300 years downstream.
No argument there. I know there's a lot of sediment there.
I'm good.
Thank you. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
So how do you want us to take
Okay.
this as a group? Here's,
Okay, I have a recommendation.
yeah.
So I've recalculated our total from the Rural Public Facilities Fund for the projects presented today would be $3,202,003. And my recommendation is and then the last project is not from Rural Public Facilities Funds, it's from interest income. So I'd like to first take the projects that are from the Rural Public Facilities Funds and request approval to award $3,202,003.
In our motion, do we need to mention the changes like the 3%?
I've included the changes in that new total.
And you included the change of not being a loan, but a grant for the fire district.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
So that total covers all the changes that we talked about here.
Yes, for the rural public facilities funds.
Okay.
And did you say that the project that was just brought to us by Bill was not included in that?
It's not included in that total because it does not qualify for rural public facilities funds. Since it's a feasibility study, it would have to be funded from interest income.
Okay.
So is that a separate motion?
That would be a separate motion I'm
And so
recommending,
the CEDC for the 3 years is included?
is included in my total.
Okay.
I recalculated.
All good.
I'm good.
So I move approval of the $3.202 million for the projects listed. Since I'm not gonna review all of them.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the projects for the Rural County Public Facility Fund. An amount of 3.2.
3.2
That was
million.
done, okay. I'm just take a quick peek. I don't see hands or I don't see anybody in the public that not part of the project, okay. Call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Thank you. And then the final project is for the study, which is $121,000 from the interest income in our public rural facilities fund.
okay. You guys' pleasure on that?
So I move approval of the $121,000 for the, go ahead, list it again.
It's a beneficial use and dredge materials study.
Yeah, that one.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the request for the study. Call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I would be opposed. Anything else for today?
No, I will be coming forward with we discovered that we need to do an amendment on an old project that was for the RV park, for the county RV park project at our fair facilities.
Oh, yeah.
And originally that project had called for the project to end in 2024, but it hasn't started. And so I'm just going to be asking in the future, in the future date, to amend that contract or that agreement so that we can finish that project at a later date. I've been going through and auditing all of our previous awards and discovered that that project has had an end date of 2024, and we need to amend that contract
If it-
to allow for sufficient time to complete the project.
It hasn't been started yet, though? Is that
No,
what you
it's
said?
it was delayed due to the master plan that was related to the road and the hotel and the whole master plan for those facilities, the PFD's master planning.
So what's the likelihood it's gonna get done next year?
I think Kim can bring you up to date on all the planning. She's got feasibility, she's working on some feasibility studies, but she delayed it because of the waiting for the master plan to be
Okay.
complete. So I think she's waiting for some final estimates from the design work and things like that. So
Okay.
I don't know if it would be, if she got the go-ahead, if it would be finished in 2026 or 2027. I don't know. I think, and she's also going to look at phases on the project as well, is what she told me.
To move them, like maybe 2 to 1 or 1 to move them around?
No, not to move them, to actually, because the project, I don't think she received $900,000 in funding. And that's probably not sufficient enough to do the full scope that they're looking at.
Yeah.
So they're going to do it in phases.
Yeah.
So that was just one other thing on my rural public facilities. But
Okay.
that's it. That's all I have.
All right.
Thank you. And we'll be working on contracts for all of this. So you'll see me again with the contracts. Once we have the contracts drawn up and ready to go, we'll present those for the final action on this. You've approved the awards and now next you'll approve the actual contracts.
Okay.
Okay.
That'll probably be May.
All right. Anything else, gentlemen? Okay, we will adjourn.